I'm going to do another edition of my guitar collection today. This one is sort of a tragic piece, and I wish it had a better life story than it does right now. It may be able to do some great things someday, but we'll see. This is a guitar that is a mishmash of a bunch of different and interesting things. It's a LTD V-401 with a Floyd, and I heavily modified it after I bought it. I bought this guitar when Landmine Marathon was endorsed by Jackson and moved over to ESP. I had, I don't know, 6 or 7 Jacksons that I was touring with, and I only had my ESP Mirage Custom, really old guitar that I will eventually talk about. And that was my only ESP at the time, and I needed to obviously have some touring guitars, so we were only going to get, I think, 1 or 2 from ESP right away, but we could buy stuff wholesale. But also our drummer at the time, Raul, worked for Guitar Center and was a really top-selling salesman and was able to get us pretty good discounts on gear, even used gear. So I sold off 2 of my USA-made Jackson soloists, and I had a couple grand to play with to get some more guitars to have in the arsenal to tour with. So this was one that I found on guitarcenter.com, and it's actually a V-401DX, and it is a really cool looking guitar. I don't love see-through finishes with the wood grain, but it looks pretty black in photos, which is cool. I prefer like either a full wood grain color or like a solid finish, or even I love matte colors the most, just solid matte colors. I like how they wear in and how they look. But this one's a gloss see-through finish. What I was finding at the time was I had a soloist custom shop that had an oiled neck on it. And I really, really, really loved how that felt. So I think I got this for like $200 or $300. And I had a friend who was trying to learn luthier stuff much better at the time, and but was still really good at what he was doing. And I asked him to do this for me, and that was to take off the finish on the neck. It also had been, let's see if it'll focus. Damaged. You can't really see it. Maybe in this camera. No. Anyway, the tip had been broken off in shipping from UPS. So he repaired that really nicely, and he ground off what we found out was a plastisol finish. So it's a mix of paint and plastic and like urethane, I think. And he said it was just an absolute nightmare, but he did a really good job. And you can see, I mean, it's a really perfect line where the binding ends and the oiled neck begins. There's little inconsistencies, like he had to blend it here where it's still kind of matte, but and then goes into the gloss there. I should have just had him strip the whole guitar, honestly, and oil it. That would have been probably a cooler look. So we did that with it, and I had him set it all up in B standard for me. And I also was endorsed by EMG at the time, and I got these really cool digital desert camo pickups, 81, 85, that they found in the warehouse and were able to get to me. I'm not sure what this switch, I can't remember if it was like a piezo in the original pickups or something, but I swear it had an 81 or an 85 in it anyway. But I could be wrong. So what happened was we were about to do a tour with NOSM on the West Coast, and then we were going to do the East Coast like a couple weeks after and play with Metallica at the first Orion Fest that they did, where each member catered like 6 bands on the festival, and Hetfield picked us and asked us to play that. So I got this guitar in hopes of taking it with me for that and having a really cool V, because I didn't have many ESPs yet, but I got a couple Alexei Vs, but at the time they weren't making a V with a Floyd Rose ESP, a full King V style. And I'd found this used and fell in love with it. But he set it all up. I didn't really get much of a chance to play it before going on tour. And our drummer, Raul, lived in the Bay Area. We're in Arizona. And we had to go up and practice with him because we were meeting NOSM in Oakland at the Metro Opera House. So I pulled it out there and we started practice, and it just refused to stay in tune no matter what I did. And it was a problem. So we were about to do some pretty important shows and a cool run with NOSM. So when we got back after the 4 or so shows, I can't even remember how many we did with NOSM, we had a week between there where we went back to Arizona and then drove east to play with Metallica on an East Coast tour. And I left it at home and honestly never ever got back to it because our friend Chris became the ESP rep. I had a bunch of LTDs already and he was hooking up like a good amount. So I should have came back to this and did it justice and set it up right. But I'm not even sure if it's the setup because it was damaged in shipping. It had fallen on the headstock and just took the whole tip off the headstock. But it has never got the love that it deserves. So someday I will get a real tech to take a look at this thing for me. I don't think Joe's working on guitars anymore, and hopefully maybe get it playing right. I don't know if it can be repaired because he's pretty good at what he was doing and it wasn't working. So no matter what, the lowest string would come out of tune and it just was unplayable for stage. So cool guitar. And I really like it. I almost thought about selling it recently, but it's just too cool to give up. So I want to get it fixed and hopefully play it more someday. And that's about it. I'll catch you on the next part of my guitar collection here in the future.